Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be working on fraction addition and subtraction. And in this one you're given a string expression representing an expression of fraction addition and subtraction, and you want to return the calculation result in string format. The final result should be an irreducible fraction, so if your final result is an integer, change it to the format of a fraction. So basically just simplify things down. So if you have 2, make it 2 over 1. So in this case we have 0, but we have 0 over 2, and 0 over 2 can be simplified to 0 over 1. And then here we have 1/3, so it's 1/3, and then here we have -1/6. So let's take a look first how we can actually take, like, let's say this is our string. The first thing we need to do is we actually need to split this string into functions, or fractions. And so that part's pretty easy. All we have to do is we just start at the beginning, and we just have a pointer where we start, and then our next pointer will be at the next plus or minus sign. And then the thing between those is a fraction. So like this will be a fraction, and then we start over here, and then we go to the next plus or minus sign. Let's say it's over here. Then like this will be a fraction, and so on and so on and so on. So now that you have that, you're just going to have an array of fractions. So like you'll have like 1/3, -1/3, and so on. You might even have things like plus 2/3. It doesn't really matter, right? You can keep this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our fractions and we're going to basically go through them one by one and add them together. So we're going to say, like, let's take these two, add them together. Let's take that result, add this together. Let's take that result, add this together, and that will give us like our total, right? Like if we have a bunch of numbers together, we can just add consecutive ones and then build up our total. So how do we take two fractions and add them together? So let's say we have a over b. Yeah, let's say, actually, let's make this like a over b plus c over d. Few ways to do it, but one way to do it is you want to find a common denominator first. So the easiest way to do that is just multiply a by d and multiply c by b. And so what we can do is we can say a times d plus c by b, and now this common denominator will be bd. Right, so because the common denominator is bd, we multiply this whole thing by d, we multiply this whole thing by b. Then we get something that's like ad plus cb over bd. Then once we get this, we have to simplify our fraction. So that's the only tricky part, is how do we simplify our fraction kind of efficiently. And so the way to do that is, let's say we have a over b and we want to simplify. Basically you want to figure out like what's the biggest number that divides into both of these, and that will simplify it. So if we have, for example, 15 over 10, 5 is the biggest number that divides into both of these, and then we can divide them both by 5. So you want to find the biggest number that I can divide this whole thing by, that this is still an integer and this is still an integer. And the way to do that is use the greatest common divisor. So that's basically, there's a pretty easy formula for that. So if we want a greatest common divisor of a and b, it's just you do two operations at the same time. You say a equals b and b equals a mod b. And you keep doing this until b is 0. Then when b is 0, you return a. So you can just like memorize that. Pretty simple function. And let's just take a look at a couple examples. So if a is 15 and b is 10, and it doesn't matter which one's bigger, it works with both. So if a is 15 and b is 10, so we're going to do a equals b and b equals a mod b at the same time. So a mod b is 5, and the old value of b was 10. Then we do it again. So a mod b is 0, and b, the old value of b was 5, so 5 goes here and 0 goes here. And now that b is 0, so when b is 0, return a. Then we just return 5. So that's the biggest number, and then we just take the numerator and the denominator and we divide them both by that. And that will give us 2/3. Then we take our 2/3 and find the next fraction and do the same thing, add them together. So if we have 2/3 and 2/3, same thing, get the common denominator, add the numerators, simplify, and you just keep doing that. So let's look at one more example of this greatest common denominator. Let's say we have like 36 over 3 or something. Or well, maybe we'll have something else. Let's have like 24. Let's see. Yeah, okay, let's do like 28 over 6 or something. Whatever. Okay, let's try this one. So same thing. 28, 6, and you keep doing the same thing. So 28 mod 6 is 4. So this becomes 4, and this is the old value of b, so 6. Then 6 mod 4 is 2, so 2, and this is the old value of b. Then this is 0, and the old value of b. So the greatest common divisor is 2, and that is indeed the case. So you would divide them both by 2, and you would get 14/3, and that's your answer. So hopefully that makes sense. So to simplify one more time, so first, split string into fractions. Second, start with first fraction and just keep adding more fractions. And to do this, first get common divisor and multiply numerators correctly, and then add numerators, and then simplify. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. So kind of long, but it's fine. Whoops. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, full screen. Okay, there we go. So first, like I said, we split into fractions, and we just look for pluses and minuses of where to split. Then we get our result from the first fraction. So we take our first fraction, we split on the backslash to get the numerator and the denominator. So the total numerator will be like our current running numerator. Total denominator will be our current running denominator. Then we just keep going down all the fractions, and we take one of the fractions, we split it, we get a numerator and a denominator. And then we get a total numerator, which is, like I said, the old total numerator times the denominator of this fraction, and the numerator of this fraction times the denominator of the old fraction, which is basically that Excalidraw thing that I drew in here, right? So it's this thing here that what we're doing. This is like our new total numerator here added together. Yeah. And then we get a common divisor, which is the thing that we want to use to simplify. So we just do the GCD of the total numerator and total denominator. And then we just divide the numerator and the denominator by both of those. And I don't even think you need the absolute value. I can double check. Maybe you do. Maybe it like depends on the numbers. Let's see. I don't know if you do though. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, I guess you do. Okay. But yeah, it's basically the same thing. It'll just give you like a negative number sometimes. And then we just have our total numerator, so we have a little fraction thing. And so yeah, this is basically what I said here. So if b is 0, return a. Otherwise, do GCD where a is the old value of b and b is the value of a mod b. I guess you do need the absolute value depending on how mods are calculated. So you might have some weird thing where some number is negative, or like, yeah, I think it depends on like how mods are calculated in each language. I guess you can double check that. But basically, just learn this GCD function, and then that's basically all there is to the problem. And then just how to simplify this whole thing. Okay, so let's take a look at time and space. So honestly, if we look at the constraints, they're really small. So there's only 10 fractions, and each fraction only has 10 values. So I'm honestly going to say it's this. So I think the GCD of 2 fractions is like log of the min of the fractions. But because these fractions can only be 1 through 10, and there's only 10 of them, that means it's going to be like basically instant. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, that's basically it. If you don't want to do GCD and you have to do it by hand, it's kind of annoying because you can probably do this kind of thing by hand, but this is the easiest way to do it. You just keep modding. And to be honest, I'm not like 100% sure. I'd have to, I don't have like a full understanding of why it is. I'd have to actually look at a bunch of numbers and like try to figure it out to get a more intuitive understanding of it. But because it's so like short, you don't really need like a full intuitive understanding. You can just memorize it. For something like union find or something more complicated or something bigger, or for like Dijkstra's, I feel like for that you'd want to actually have a full intuitive understanding, because A, you have to modify it, and B, it's kind of big, so you can't just like memorize the whole thing. But for this, it's like 2 lines of code, so you can just memorize it, and you don't really need to like a full understanding of exactly how it works, because it's like math, so whatever. But yeah, it's gonna be all for this one. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.